Miami won an ugly game versus the Knicks on Monday thanks to a strong showing from their second-year center. Is this aggressive version of Kel'el Ware here to stay?
I don't know that, but David, I loved what Kel'el told Jeremy Taché at the end of the game. He said, all I was thinking about on that final possession was go get the ball. As long as he's thinking like that, I think that bodes well for him in the Heat.
You are Locked On Heat, your daily Miami Heat podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, welcome to Locked On Heat, your daily podcast on the Miami Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube or on your favorite podcast app, thanks so much for making Locked On Heat your first listen every day. Join the Cookie Gang and become an everydayer. That means subscribing and listening every day. I'm Wes Goldberg, host of Locked On NBA Daily and Real GM Radio. I'm here with David Ramil. Both of us are credentialed Heat media members who cover this team every day. We'll get to credit cookies and our text line questions here in a minute. Recording this on Monday night after an intense win over the Knicks. David, a classic Heat-Knicks football game. I'd say it felt like I just finished watching a football game, right? I mean, I'd say more things went wrong in that game for both teams than went right. And it felt like one team just had to kind of win. That's a butcher shop win, man. That's a butcher shop win. You don't want to see how it's made, but you appreciate the result.
Yeah. Allowing a certain level of physicality, mostly on the New York side, but we'll talk about that a little later. But still, it was an interesting game just to see all these swings back and forth, these little runs within the course of the game. I wasn't sure what the outcome was. Even when Miami was up 10 close to the end of the fourth quarter, I thought, you know what? That doesn't feel as secure as it should, even for this year's team that's been pretty good at holding on to those leads and even building on them. But this Knicks team just found a way to come back. It just seems like one play could have decided the whole game. In fact, it wound up doing exactly that. It came down to the very wire, and who knows how it could have played out differently. But you know what? It's a fantastic win from Miami. Another gutsy effort at home. They find a way to hang on, and a lot of that, I think, had to do with Kel'el Ware and a fantastic performance from him.
Yeah, I mean, again, more things went wrong for both of these teams than went right. So no Bam Adebayo, no Tyler Herro for the Heat, no Jalen Brunson for the Knicks. Karl-Anthony Towns gets into early foul. He was bad in the first half. He was a lot better in the fourth quarter, but he gets into early foul trouble, so his minutes are all wonky. The Heat gave up way too many points in the paint. You mentioned the officiating. That was all over the place. The Heat missed 56 shots in this game. They got beaten fast break points. Somehow they still got the win. And this, to me, despite the ugliness, is a great win. This is a great win. Why is it such a great win? The obvious thing is it's against the Knicks, A. B, conference opponent. And these teams could legitimately be battling for playoff position. That's a possibility here. But more importantly, David, it showed that the Heat can still win games like this. This was a slower paced game. They did not win the transition battle at all in this one, and they still got the win. This says a lot about the makeup of this team, and I think bodes well as teams continue to get a scout on this system, and even looking further ahead to playoffs when things tend to slow down and you have to win in a lot of different ways. They didn't have to play the way that they've been playing all year. They didn't have to do the up-tempo pace thing. They were able to win a slower game, a game in the mud, a classic Heat type of win, but one that we haven't seen all season long up until this point. They were ultimately still the tougher team in the end, and they still found a way to win.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of what exactly was the swing factor in those half-court sets, but I think a lot of it, their perimeter defense was better. I think they did a pretty good job of closing out on New York shooters, holding them to 20-something percent on from three-point, just 25% from three-point range. So they put up a lot of shots, and without Brunson tonight, without Adebayo, obviously they were missing two of their best shooters, and it really made a difference for Miami. And so they were able to really keep them from getting into any kind of fluid offense. There was some timely baskets from a couple of players on the New York side, but New York, I think, made a lot of mistakes, and Miami was able to capitalize on that. Yeah. I think they were actually able to force a lot of mistakes too. They did a pretty good job of doing things well and putting just the right amount of pressure on those Knicks players that forced them into key turnovers down the stretch.
Yeah, you could argue the biggest plays of the game were Pelle Larsson drawing a charge and
Yes.
a big block by Kel'el Ware at the end, but even that
Oh,
wasn't clean, right? That had to go to review, and was it a goaltend? And it was pretty close,
ridiculous.
but they
I
did.
don't think so. I don't
They
think it
called
was
it right.
close at all. Yes, they did.
They called it. I thought it was honestly the first time I saw it, I was like, that might have been on the way down. And then I saw the replay. I'm like, no, that was a clean block. But like again, it was just goes to show that nothing was easy in this game, right? Even that had to go to a review. And it was the whole thing. And the Kel'el Ware jump ball against Karl-Anthony Towns, and then he misses it. And then they bring the ball down, and it's like this whole slop of a final possession. And Davion Mitchell somehow ends up on the floor with the ball, which for how this game played out was probably the most predictable way that this game. No matter which team won or what the final result was, if you would have just been like, hey, how does this game end? I could have just guessed Davion Mitchell on the floor. Is probably how I would have guessed this game ending, and that's exactly what happened. To your point, by the way, on the Knicks half court offense, you're exactly right. They scored 80. They were scoring at a rate of 83.5 points per 100 possessions in the half court. That's horrible. So
I don't know what you're talking about, bro. This is not exactly what I'm saying. You know what? That game, those refs, bro. By the way, another timely visit from Jose from Kendall here. You know, because that Knicks game really pisses me off, baby. Yeah, that's right, Wes. It's back. I'm back.
I wasn't expecting this.
Yes, I know. That's the whole point, bro. What is going on here? After a game like that, I'm going to be fired up. I've had a few beers. I'm ready to go. I was there at the Bacardi Lounge having a good time with my boys, trying to fight some Knicks fans because they're so stupid and they're always rowdy and everything else like that. But you know what? I'm so sick of them going, yeah, whatever. Okay. Douche McBride, every time he puts up a shot, it's ridiculous. I'm so sick of them, those stupid Knicks fans with their 17 head coaches since Pat Riley came to Miami, and they still haven't let it go.
That's a pretty good stat, Jose.
Yeah, fantastic stat. Despite the officiating, Miami found a way to win tonight. I am so sick of the narrative, bro, of like, oh, the league is better when the Knicks are good and all this. It's so ridiculous. Who cares about the Knicks? Outside of New York, nobody gives a good goddamn what the hell the Knicks do. Willis Reed ain't walking through the door to help Karl-Anthony Towns. Misu, cat. Misu. That guy can't play. He's so soft. Jimmy Butler, God rest his soul. I still love that guy, but you know, he said it right. He was right on the money. Soft as you know what, Wes. I can't stand that guy. Flopping around. I've never seen a cat cry so much since my girlfriend's cat was trying to get pregnant, bro. That thing is so ridiculous. He's flopping around all over the place. 7 foot of nothing, bro. I'm so sick of it. I haven't seen so many New Yorkers travel since the pandemic, Wes. They were like flopping all over the place, taking 8 steps in the lane. Josh Hart. Are you kidding me? They should call him Josh Appendix. He's so useless out there. I don't know what the hell the point of that guy is. He's just drawing fouls and crying all the time. The Knicks are so pathetic. They're not going to win anything, bro. They're soft. They're ridiculous. God, I don't even know who their coach is now. Mike Brown. What the hell has he done? He won something with Golden State. Hey, you know what? It helps when you have Steph Curry. He ain't coming to save the Knicks, bro, so don't even worry about it. He can't do nothing. Might as well get Mike Woodson back or whoever their coach was last time. I don't know. Mike D'Antoni, Jeff Hornacek, their coach, Isaiah Thomas. There's so many coaches on the Knicks I can't keep track.
17.
Yeah, 17 of them, bro. That's a lot of head coaches. A lot of head coaches. They can't win. Hey, you know what? And how many trips to the finals do they have since then? What is it? 1, 2? I don't even remember. They're pretty useless.
So what was the overall point there? That the Knicks lost the game because they stink, or are we going to give credit to the Heat for winning there, Jose?
Oh, no, absolutely. He won it despite the refs. The refs might as well have been a Ben Stiller out there in a ref's uniform the way he was calling fouls for the Knicks. It was ridiculous. You know, the Heat showed heart. They showed toughness. Miami, baby. That's the Miami way. Go 305. Go back to the 212, baby. You don't know what you're doing.
You know, I never talk officiating because I think it's the worst version of sports radio.
What are you talking about? That's the problem, Wes. You got to look with your eyes, bro. You saw those foul calls. How many trips to the line did they get? It was ridiculous. Ridiculous. I'm so sick of it. I don't know why the Knicks get preferential treatment just because of the Big Apple. Adam Silver, you know, you're selling out the rest of your league. What about Terry Rozier, bro? Fix the Terry Rozier problem before you start giving the fouls away to the New York Knicks.
I was going to say, but they missed some obvious calls.
Yeah.
Just some obvious travels and just clearly Josh Hart being out of bounds, trying to save a ball. Very, very clear missed calls. But I will say, like, if the Heat had lost this game, I was not going to blame the officiating as much as Heat fans might want to blame the officiating.
Oh, I would have.
Because I don't think either team deserved to win this game. It was that ugly of a game.
Yeah, but those calls might have been on the Epstein files. They were so egregious. I don't know what's going on.
Well, then we would never have seen them.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't see the calls. They were just
That's
so
right.
ridiculous.
We never saw the calls. All we saw was the evidence out there. Jose, I think you'll appreciate our next segment because I smell something in the oven. Credit cookies.
Whatever.
Credit cookies. Why do you dislike? I don't understand why Jose From Kendall dislikes me. Credit cookies is next.
Today's episode is brought to you by Rippling. If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS, that's sad. Software is a disservice, and that's why you need Rippling. Rippling is a unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. What you love about Rippling is how it removes the bottlenecks and busy work that slow teams down. Everything from onboarding to payroll to IT access, well, it runs more automatically and perfectly in sync. And whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or if you just want to fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/LockedOnNBA. Learn more at rippling.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rippling.com/LockedOnNBA for 6 months free. We'll be right back. Today's episode also brought to you by Prize Picks. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement on this sports season. Whether you're following the NFL, the NBA, or both, there's no better time to jump in on the action. And if you haven't tried it yet, Prize Picks is the simplest way to play. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere Prize Picks operates, including California, Texas, Georgia. You'll probably be using Prize Picks during both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs, maybe to see how my predictions play out. A new stacks feature is a game changer. You can pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. And you can download the Prize Picks app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. We'll be right back.
What a journey there. I love the juxtaposition of Jose From Kendall showing up, us going to the ad break, and then you having to read an intra-business software company ad as you're buttoning up your shirt.
We are. I don't know what we're
quite literally being more buttoned up for the ad read.
I have no idea. We were breaking down the game. I'm not sure what you're referring to. I don't know who this Jose From Kendall person
You blacked out for about 4.5 minutes of the first segment. Very good.
Something like that. Why not?
It's the Heat's 8th win of the season, which means it's time for the tastiest segment of Locked On Heat. It's time for credit cookies.
I get a feeling that Jose person would probably like this song just a bit. I don't know. Maybe not.
Who wouldn't like this song? It's a great song. 10 cookies to give out. The credit cookies, David. Who you got?
Oh, well, we talked about Kel'el Ware, and I think we have to start with him. I think even from the very first tip, he was so aggressive, chasing after loose balls, tipping up rebounds, making 50-50 plays. This was the engaged version of Kel'el that we've been calling for, that the Heat coaching staff has been expecting, and he was so impactful. It's no surprise that he led the team in plus-minus with +8. Had 16 points, 7 of 9 from the floor, including a big basket down the stretch, 14 rebounds, an assist, a steal, 3 blocks, all of them crucial, all of them momentum-shifting plays. This wasn't empty calories. We've seen Kel'el put up numbers before that didn't necessarily impact the flow of the game. Eric Spoelstra has talked about as much, that, sometimes those plays, they're great. The statistic production may be pretty solid, and yet not necessarily the kind of impactful plays that really changed the course of the game. Not tonight. Tonight, he was fantastic. I'm giving him his flowers 100%. He gets 4 cookies off the bat.
Yeah, 100%. He had 6 offensive rebounds. The Heat had 7 offensive rebounds. he was responsible for whatever that is, 96% of whatever the stats are on that. That is making an impact, right? That's literally that's what we always talk about with these guys. Value add. What are you adding to the mix here? We've talked about it with Kel'el and Nikola Jovic over and over and over again. That is literally a value add. That is, without me, there ain't no offensive rebounds. With me, we got 6 of them. I'm responsible for 6 of them. I made a difference in this category. You can look at the box score and be like, right there. And then you obviously mentioned the plus minus there. I thought defensively, he was really strong. There was definitely, there's always going to be some nitpicks that you could have, but I thought he was really strong defensively. That was not an easy position for him to be in, where he was sometimes on Karl-Anthony Towns, and he was sometimes on Mitchell Robinson. He was sometimes against Gershon Yabusele. Sometimes he was playing off of Josh Hart when they would have him on him and kind of sag off of him. That's not easy for him to do. Karl-Anthony Towns, as we know, an elite offensive center in this game. Bam is the guy that you need, is the kind of guy that you need to defend Karl-Anthony Towns. They obviously did not have Bam in this game. I thought Ware did a really good job. I thought Cat did a really bad job also in the first half, to give credit and play him where it is appropriately due. But Ware does get a lot of credit in these credit cookies for not necessarily forcing him into all of his mistakes, but getting him uncomfortable. Certainly, he was a big part of those early double teams on Cat. Without Ware, none of that happens, and so he's very deserving of this. And then offensively, making himself available for those dump offs, having those putbacks, those relief buckets were so huge, especially in a game where you missed, again, 56 shots. Having a guy like Ware there to just tip back a couple of those, the relief of that, the momentum of all of that is huge. 4 credit cookies, well deserved. Who's next?
I've got 2 for Davion Mitchell. I think he was a really solid game tonight. 18 points, 7 to 12 from the floor, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, but some really crucial defensive plays as well, and buckets down the stretch when it looked like New York might run away with it for a little bit in the fourth quarter. Davion was there to step up. Huge shots, really just momentum shifting possessions there, but he just looked really solid, and his defense was fantastic. Again, we talked about New York just shooting 25%, Davion and his perimeter defense, whether it was just closing out, forcing guys into tough shots, not giving up room, fighting through screens, maybe even drawing fouls in that regard. Like, he was just sensational. So I got to give him 2 cookies on the night.
Yeah, he's gotten really elite at drawing the illegal screen foul. He gets so skinny going over those screens, and he gets over those screens so quickly because of it, that offensive players who are setting that second screen sometimes are surprised by how quickly Davion is there. And so they're not moving at like playoff pace, right? They're moving at regular season pace. And so they're still kind of getting into their screen while Davion's just running into their backside. And he draws a lot of offensive fouls that way. It's really unique the way that he does it. And it feels like he's getting one of those a game now. And then offensively, 8 points on 3 of 3 shooting in the fourth quarter. The Knicks go to a zone defense for 90% of this game, and I thought it slowed down the Heat offense for a lot of it. It forced them into some tough mid-range jumpers, some tough outside jumpers, and Norm Powell got off to a slow start. Davion got off to an okay start, but both Norm and Davion Mitchell figured out, okay, we kind of just got to attack this anyway, the way that we would attack a man defense. We kind of just got to attack it the same way. Davion and Norm Powell were on the forefront of that, so Davion gets a lot of credit for that, obviously, but they've eventually just said, you know what, I'm going to just get downhill. And we know how good Davion Mitchell is at getting downhill, and that was a huge part of Miami's offense in the fourth quarter. Didn't have any assists in the fourth quarter, but it felt like he was responsible for that first pass that would kind of ping-pong around and end up getting into a decent shot.
The hockey assist, I've got 2 credit cookies going to Simone Fontecchio, 14 points in the night.
Italian stallion.
Fantastic game. Just he's really, really good. He just feels like such a great addition to this roster. So unexpected, his production. We were talking in the preseason that we didn't think he might even garner any playing time. And it just seemed like he might have been out of the rotation completely. And yet he has been so valuable. I mean, you could argue that I don't think there's any argument, really. He's been a better player than Nikola Jovic over the course of the season. He's just been very impactful in his minutes. Really solid defense as well. Forced a great steal against Jordan Clarkson. He's just been a really solid player that I don't think a lot of people expect him to be the kind of contributor that he's been, but he seems to flourish here in Miami, and he's contributed a great deal. Also to finish with a second team best +5 out on the floor tonight. So that was a great showing for him.
He had how many threes tonight? He had the
4 of 7.
The 4, yeah, 4 of 7. So he's had multiple 3-pointers made in 11 of Miami's 14 games.
Yep.
This season. He's been huge, and it's not always explosive. It's obviously not always 4 3-pointers, and it's not always doing things otherwise, but just having a guy like that coming off your bench, and I don't know that he's better than Duncan Robinson or worse than Duncan Robinson, and frankly, I'm not interested in that conversation.
Yeah.
But the expectations aren't there with him the way that they were with somebody like Duncan Robinson, or they would have been there with like Max Strus, had Max Strus returned on the contract that he's on right now with Cleveland, right? Having a bit guy off the bench like that who can contribute in multiple ways, but mostly obviously as an outside shooter, that feels like so much more of a luxury than it really ever had in a lot than the Heat have had in a very long time. Like the last time I can remember having this kind of luxury where the expectations were basically 0, and then every once in a while this guy would come in and you'd be like, oh wow, this guy just hit 4 3-pointers and kind of changed the tempo of the game, was like Wayne Ellington. Like I really can't remember the last time we felt like 0 expectations, and it was always just gravy every time that guy did it.
Gabe Vincent, I guess, was that kind of effect.
Yeah, but Gabe, you expected other things from him. Like you're like, yeah, he still has to be out there for defense and all these other things, but like Fontecchio's playing time can kind of wax and wane based on whether or not he's making the shots, and if he doesn't get a ton of minutes, it's not like a big deal.
That's a good point. That's fair. I've also got one credit cookie going to Norm Powell. Didn't hit a 3-pointer tonight. Still finished with 19 points. Only 1 free throw in the night, and he was certainly getting hacked. Just wasn't able to get the calls that he has.
Yeah, they missed an obvious hack there too. That was on Josh Hart also, right?
Yeah. Who else? 9 of 20 from the floor though, so maybe not his best shooting night, but that's still a really good shooting night despite going 0 for 3. And that just goes to kind of show he had a couple shots that I really thought would have gone in closer to the painted area. And he could have been more productive, but still a really solid showing overall. Had a nice dunk at the end of the game, too, on a breakaway steal and a transition basket. That was huge for Miami. And just a really solid game overall. So just the one credit cookie because we've seen him play better games, but still a really impactful game overall. And the last credit cookie.
No, I mean you're giving Powell the one credit cookie essentially for his second half. He was bad in the first half, and he was good in the second half. He was 6 of 13 overall in the second half. You got a credit cookie for that. I think it's a good call.
Pelle Larsson gets one,
yes.
I think also. I think he was impactful. 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 4 of 9 from the floor. Just big baskets too, like 2 of 4 from 3-point range. He continues to just be an impactful player. That seems to be the theme here, especially when we start off talking about Ware. But Pelle has gotten those minutes as a starter by necessity, but also he's earned it. He's impactful when he plays the game, making a difference out there. Whether it's hitting a big shot, getting to the line, or drawing a foul. I think it was for the 5th foul on Karl Anthony Towns. That was a huge play, really a turning point for Miami. He was just really, really solid overall.
So the only guy that you're missing is Drew Smith. He deserves something here. 11 points, made 3 3-pointers in this game, entered the game making 9 3-pointers on the season, made 3 in this one, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, huge play after huge play. Really involved in setting up the offense. I think you got to take one away from either Simone or from Davion. Drew Smith deserves something here.
Yeah, I guess we take it away from Simone then. I think Davion was more impactful. All right.
Yep. Great job on the credit cookies. Congrats to everybody that got credit cookies. Coming up next, we're going to get to our text line to answer some of your questions, including one about how the Heat can more consistently beat these zone defenses. It's coming up next here on Locked On Heat.
Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Your ambition just met its match with Robinhood. You play for the win, not just on game day, every day. Locking in on every opening, beating your PR, beating it again. Channel that drive into your money. Robinhood puts you in control of your money. Trade stocks and ETFs, options, futures, and crypto all on one platform. You can now build and execute your own trades from a desktop with Robinhood Legends advanced tools, or take advantage of the new Robinhood strategies with a tailored portfolio managed by a team of experts. You expect more from yourself. Expect more from your money. Get started today at Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Again, that's Robinhood.com/yourmoney. Your money, your move. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rougiette. Let's be real, making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little extra support, and that's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette.com offers fast acting, doctor prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rougiette makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in person appointments. It's prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. The process is fast, simple, and private. And it's all handled by real doctors. And it's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. So visit rugiet.com/lockedonnba to get 15% off your first order. That's Rougiette, rugiet.com/lockedonnba. And don't forget to use our code LOCKEDONNBA so they know we sent you. Rougiette, stop making excuses and start making moves. We'll be right back.
Let's get to the text line. You can get text from us and submit questions for the post-game shows to the link in the show notes or text 786-998-7029. This question comes from Malachi, who writes in, tonight showed why Kel'el Ware is so special to this team. Why can't he be more consistent overall? Is it because he's still young, or what is it? Here's my theory, David.
Okay.
Totally a theory, just a working theory.
All right.
I wonder if Kel'el Ware is just consistently better after the Heat practice. The Heat practiced on Sunday. Kel'el Ware came out with maybe the best game of the season. And it feels like after practices, he does tend to have his better games. After an intense film review, after essentially more than a walkthrough, is when he can get really dialed in. And maybe that has something to do with his inexperience. I'm sure it has something to do with that if this theory is true. But that's sort of what I'm going at right now, is not only is there breaks in between games when you have a practice, which is always good for rest purposes, but also just a chance to really dial into the game plan. I wonder if that maybe is what is going on right now with Kel'el.
It's certainly a possibility. I think it all matters. I think those practice sessions matter because they're a chance for him to connect with teammates and coaches where they're supporting him and pushing him to reach that next level. It's not him against an opponent. It's just him taking feedback from people that want him to excel. They want to maximize what he's capable of. And I think that's part of what helps him, is realizing, you know what, these people are all trying to help me and trying to get me to be the best version of myself. I talked about this in yesterday's episode. Udonis Haslem texting him. Udonis, part of the team, but not, also moving on to other opportunities. And still texting him and saying, you know what, do this, and Kel'el responding positively. And it looks like it's made a difference. And I think it's not a surprise that between the practice, between the support from coaches and teammates, from the support and pushing a guy like UD, it leads to a fantastic effort. And the emphasis is on the word effort, because we haven't really seen that from Kel'el. And he was electric, just aggressive, engaged to a level that I don't think we've seen. Maybe we saw flashes of it on occasion. Maybe we even saw it during Summer League, but nothing like this against a really good Knicks team with an all-NBA center in Karl-Anthony Towns. And there were moments there where it seemed like Ware was living up to the challenge, accepting the responsibility of trying to limit Karl-Anthony Towns and challenging him on rebounds and on shot block opportunities. And I think that was a real step in the right direction for Kel'el. You want to see him not rest on his laurels and continue to build off that. But tonight's effort, at the very least, was phenomenal.
Our next question comes from Cody, who writes in, the Knicks 2-3 zone was effective. How big of a factor will Tyler Herro be in busting those zones? So the Knicks essentially played, like I said before, 90% zone defense for the last 6 quarters, right? The second half of the last game where the Heat lost, and then most of this game where the Heat won. And we have seen teams, and David, it's something that you and I have been highlighting as the season has gone on here. We've seen teams like the Lakers and some of these other teams using zone a lot more against this Heat no ball screen system. I think we have seen it on occasion slow Miami's offense down a bit here. I will be really especially with Bam out, because Bam's got that free throw line jumper, that middle of the paint kind of jumper. is the kind of thing that busts a zone, but also obviously the 3-point shot, right? If you're going to zone up in a 2-3 zone and kind of create that wall, well, the best way to beat that is to just shoot over the wall. It doesn't matter. And a guy like Tyler Herro, we've seen Norm Powell have big moments like that, but that wasn't the case tonight, obviously. Tyler Herro on nights where Norm Powell maybe doesn't have it, or maybe nights where he does have it, now you have two guys who can shoot. In today's NBA, you need more than just one 3-point shooter. So I think he's going to be big there. But also, David, I think that float game from Tyler Herro is going to be really big in busting this zone. That I think is a really underrated part of Tyler Herro's game. There's not a lot of guys in the league with a better floater than Herro. And if he's able to add that into the mix, that's kind of doing that same thing that Bam's free throw line jumper does, where it's just that dead zone in the middle of the zone that is mostly left open. And if Herro can get to that area consistently and hit him with that floater, that can also bust the zone.
Yeah, I think he's proven to be elite at pulling up for his shot opportunities, whether they're floater or even for the pull-up jumper. In that regard, he might be one of the very best in the league in finding those ways. He can't create space. He's not quick enough nor strong enough the way some other elite scorers can. But when it comes to stopping and popping, he is as good as anybody, if not better than almost anybody else in the NBA. And I think that's going to be a real effective tool because he's also improved as a playmaker. So there he is going to be able to create a little space for himself with that pull-up jumper. And if for whatever reason he's defended well, I think now you have enough other scoring options on this team with a guy like Norm, Davion Mitchell, etc., that I think they'll really help balance out and create other opportunities too. So we've seen Tyler kind of continue to develop as a scorer, but develop as a playmaker. That bodes well for how he can flourish in this offense.
We have 3 more questions, 30 seconds on each of these. William B. writes in, was it part of the game plan to drop the pace back to average to be able to rebound? No, I don't think that was part of the plan, as we talked about at the front of the show. I think this was just an ugly game played in the mud. If the Heat could have pushed the pace, I think they would have. That was not what was happening. The Knicks were scoring too much against this Heat defense without Bam Adebayo. They had to take the ball out of their own hoop way too much. It's just what happened, but it's a huge credit to this team that they still found a way to win a game like this.
101 field goal attempts. They were clearly trying to put up as many points as possible. They just weren't able to knock them down. So I don't think they were intentionally slowing things down, nor do I think they will. That they can blend in this style is a great sign, but that's not going to be by design at any point in time.
Adam writes in, what does he need to do about the rebounding deficiency? It killed us in the early part of this year. Do we need to trade for another big? Bam says he might be able to be good to go by Wednesday night against the Golden State Warriors. Once Bam comes back, that rebounding thing is not an issue nearly as much. Now, there's always that concern that Bam can tweak something else and go out of the lineup, and then that rebounding issue rears its head again. But for now, where the Heat are against the cap, and the fact that they have won more games than I think are expected when you've had Norm Powell out and Bam Adebayo out for a lot of these games and Herro out all season, I think wait and see is probably the best approach right now.
Absolutely. And especially if we can get this version of Kel'el Ware, because then you've got Bam as a starter creating opportunities for himself and his other starter teammates, and then Kel'el coming off the bench, presuming that he's going to be continuing to thrive in that role. And as long as he stays aggressive like he did tonight, the rebounding will not be a problem. They might even wind up being a top 10 rebounding team somehow.
There's something to be said, too, about forcing Kel'el just to be good and not giving him an out, right?
Right.
By adding another big to the roster. Last one, A. Lamas writes in, Bam and Tyler are going to need 60 minutes combined when they're back. Could we see a consolidation trade and sell high on some of the guys that are going to see their workload cut? That's a bigger question. My short answer is I don't think the Heat have the luxury of consolidation trades right now, given how injured they've started this year and that injuries can happen at any time with this roster. I think we're way too early to start talking consolidation trades. See what it looks like when it comes back, see who falls out of the rotation, but more likely than not, even the guys who fall out of the rotation initially will be needed at some point.
Yeah, the depth has been too strong a favorite, apart from Miami this season. Like, they've benefited from their depth the way that I don't think most people really expected. Most people outside of us, I think, looked at this team and were like, oh, they don't really have the superstar. They don't really have the star level player, but their strength was in their depth. And we've seen it with either guys like Jaime, Fontecchio, Larson, everybody stepping up in different opportunities. They've been really crucial to Miami's success thus far this season. February, that's a whole other situation. If some big player happens to shake loose down the stretch and maybe they can make that consolidation trade then, to really strengthen their roster,
Yeah.
that's when it's most likely to happen.
Hey, superstar trade, that's not consolidation trade. That's upgrade, right? That feels like a different thing. That totally has to be on the table, as it always is for the Miami Heat. That'll do it for us today. This has been Locked On Heat, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.